World Airways was chartered in 1948. In 1950, Ed Daly bought the airline for $50,000, consisting of two C-46s and $250,000 in debt. Folklore has it that he won it in a card game. The airline grew steadily, flying primarily military charters under the Log Air program. World was prominent during the Vietnam War, flying troop charters, Stars and Stripes shuttles, and memorably flying orphans to the States. Remember the last flight out of Da Nang? It was made into a TV movie. After Daly died in 1984, the airline had troubles, DC-10 groundings, fare discounts under deregulation, etc. In 1986, the headquarters was moved to Herndon, Virginia, World Corp Incorporated. And after nearly going bankrupt, Hollis Harris was brought in and moved the headquarters to Peachtree City, Georgia, outside of Atlanta. The airline was restructured and was again profitable, again primarily doing military charter business. I began flying for World in 1992 and was forced to retire in 2006 by the FAA age 60 mandatory retirement regulation. World Airways has flown many in various charters all over the world. Between 1986 and 2001, a significant moneymaker and interesting charter was flying the Hajj. That is what I'll briefly discuss today. I flew 7 of these contracts. These are some of the locations I have flown while flying various contracts with World Airways. One of the more interesting contracts that I flew was flying the Hajj. Today I'd like to relate my experiences flying pilgrims to the world's largest annual religious pilgrimage. I will also offer some observations and comments of my travels in Saudi Arabia and Indonesia. So first, some important information about the Muslim religion and their holy sites in Saudi Arabia. The Muslim religion was founded in the 6th century. The 5 pillars of Islam are the foundation of Muslim life. Faith in the belief or oneness of God and the prophethood of Muhammad, praying 5 times a day, almsgiving to the needy, fasting, and pilgrimage to Mecca, once, if at all possible. The Islamic calendar, printed for planning purposes only, are based on estimates of the visibility of the lunar crescent, and the Islamic month may actually start 1 to 2 days earlier or later than predicted. You probably recognize the 10th month, Ramadan, where the faithful fast from sunrise to sunset. The Hajj occurs in the 12th month, and because the calendar is based on a lunar calendar, it occurs about 10 days earlier each year. In 2004, the Hajj was in late January. Mecca, Saudi Arabia, is the center of the Muslim world. The Hajj is the pilgrimage to Mecca. The city is revered by Muslims as being the first place created on earth. Medina, not far away, is the second holiest site, the birthplace of Muhammad. Jerusalem is the third holiest site, where Muhammad rose to heaven. A Muslim may visit at any time of year. However, the Hajj pilgrimage must take place during a certain time of the year. Every hotel room has an arrow somewhere pointing to Mecca for the faithful to say their daily prayers. The Holy Mosque in Mecca, with the Kaaba in the center, the mosque can handle up to 1 million worshippers at one time. Some other pictures of the Holy Mosque in Mecca. At the center of the Holy Mosque in Mecca is the Kaaba, the focal point of prayer. Kaaba means cube. It's a black stone structure on a marble base which stands in the center court of the Great Mosque of Mecca. It's about 50 feet high and about 35 feet wide. It is reported to be the site which Abraham and his son Ismail built a place of worship. Set into the eastern corner of the sacred stone is the sacred stone, covered by an elaborately embroidered black drape. The black stone is kissed by all the pilgrims who can gain access to it. It's dark red-brown and now encompassed by a massive silver band. It's presumed to be of pre-Islamic origin, possibly meteoric. Myths say it fell from heaven, or perhaps brought to earth by angels, as a white stone in order to provide the cornerstone of the original Kaaba. It turned black by the impure touch of humans across the millennium. It is referred to as the hand of Allah. As any non-Muslim in the temple would be slain on sight, and photography is generally prohibited, the stone is shrouded in mystery. In 2000 and 2001, World Airways contracted with Garuda Indonesia, the national airline, to operate 4 MD-11s from late January through April. Indonesia is the largest Muslim country and the world's 4th most populous country. Almost 90% of all Indonesians are Muslim. 2 planes operating out of the city of Balikpapan, Borneo, now named Kalimantan, and 2 planes out of Surabaya in central Java. They could not all arrive at once for the 1 week of worship, so the Hajj flights start up to a month and a half before the Holy Week. Some 180 round trips were flown, transporting some 40,000 Hajis to and from Saudi Arabia. The flight's about 11 to 12 hours, depending on the point of departure and the en route winds. The route of flight from Balikpapan took us across Borneo, over Sumatra, crossing the Straits of Malacca, the Bay of Bengal, over Sri Lanka, India, and then across the Arabian Sea into the Arabian Peninsula, and over the country of Oman, and then into Jeddah. From here, it's a 2+ hour flight over the empty quarter and other Saudi deserts, and then into Jeddah. Muslims travel thousands of miles to reach the holy city of Mecca for the Hajj and perform the rituals in the same manner as the Prophet Muhammad almost 14 centuries ago. Each year, close to 2.2 million pilgrims perform the Hajj. The allowable number is set by the Saudi government. The preparation and logistics to accommodate these 2.2 million pilgrims arriving in Saudi Arabia all about the same time is a Herculean task. The majority of the pilgrims fly to Jeddah, the major airport serving Mecca. My aircraft, the MD-11, is the newer version of the high-tech version of the DC-10. 3 Pratt & Whitney 4460 engines provide up to 62,000 pounds of thrust each. For the Hajj, it's configured for 410 passengers. The 3-engine aircraft is one of the largest commercial passenger aircraft. It has an all-electronic cockpit and even a bunk bed. These are special charter flights, with the first phase used to transport the pilgrims to Saudi Arabia, and the second phase transporting them back home. In between phases, there's about a week for the Hajj ceremonies. This turns out to be about a 2-week period of hiatus for the crews. Some use the time to return home to the States, others travel in the area, Bali, Australia, etc. During the first phase, the flight to Saudi Arabia is full, and the return is empty. During the second phase, the opposite is true. Flight crew is 4. FAR 121 requires an extra pilot for flights over 8 hours, and an extra 2 pilots for over 12 hours. This was an add-on flight and the reserve crew happened to be made up of 3 captains and 1 FO. You can guess who did all the paperwork. We normally fly with 10 flight attendants from Garuda Airlines and 1 flight attendant from World. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event for these profoundly religious people, many using their life savings for their trip. They are all excited, and for many this is their first airplane ride. The Hajis like having their picture taken. They're all required to undergo several weeks of training on what it's like to travel by air. Like all tourists, they like to have their pictures taken. Even Hajis like to fool around. Our final approach takes us over the city of Jeddah and on to runway 34 Center. The Jeddah airport is one of the largest in the world when considering acreage. This runway is over 13,000 feet long. The white-topped buildings in the center are the Hajj terminals. The Hajj terminal houses millions of pilgrims who make their way to Mecca every year. During the Hajj, jumbo jets arrive continuously around the clock. All Hajj inbound and outbound traffic must adhere to a strict arrival slot time assigned by the Saudi authorities. The tents are hooked to steel rings hung from suspension cables, which are draped from single pylons in the interior of the module, from ladder-like double pylons at the module edges, and from 4 pylon towers at the corners. The terminal received the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 1983. Roofed by a fabric tension structure that covers more area, 100 acres, more than any roof in the world. 21 tent units, each 45 meters square, form a single module. The terminal is comprised of 10 such modules, 2 identical 5-module sections separated by a landscape mall. The 2 large terminal units each comprise a total of 105 tents. The enclosed and air-conditioned arrival buildings are located under the tents along the outside edge of the terminal unit, parallel to the aircraft aprons. The Hajj terminal processes the pilgrims who make their way to Mecca each year via this airport. Capacity of the terminal at any one time is estimated at 50,000 for a period of up to 18 hours during arrival, and 80,000 for periods of up to 36 hours during departure. The terminal provides toilets, shops, benches, and banking facilities for the pilgrims. If you are a pilgrim, you gotta like camping. Many of the pilgrims will be assigned to tent cities in and around Mecca, well over 1 million campers. I'll spend a few minutes to tell you about some of my observations of our layover in Saudi Arabia. It's a strict Islamic country. Prayer calls are made 5 times a day. During these prayer times, all the shops and businesses are closed. It is a country of old values and beliefs that has been thrust reluctantly into the modern age. This is a view from the Red Sea Palace Hotel. Note the central mosque at the right. This is the central mosque of Jeddah. The square adjacent to the mosque is what we call Chop Chop Square. The legal system here is based on strict interpretation of the Quran. Capital punishment is carried out swiftly, once a week, following the main Friday service. There is often public punishment. This is a scene I took from the 7th floor of my hotel, immediately following a beheading. On the day this photo was taken, there was one beheading and 2 hands cut off, 3 different people. Non-Muslims are invited to the front row to observe the punishment. Most hotels have a private beach area on the Red Sea for Westerners. The Red Sea provides some of the best snorkeling and diving in the world. Uncovered Saudi women are not to be seen by men other than their husbands. To prevent women from being seen, windows are heavily screened. Shopping is the main attraction, or main pastime, especially when 2 million shoppers turn up for a couple of months. There are many sights to see. An enormous variety of olives and fresh bread, right from the oven. This is the main souk, or shopping center, and in the middle there is a shawarma and juice stand. Our standard fare for lunch would be to walk down to the juice stand, have a shawarma or a falafel sandwich, and a glass of juice. Although alcohol is strictly forbidden in the country, tobacco is not. Hookahs or water pipes are a common sight. Men usually smoke their hubbly bubbly with sweet hot tea. I found the hookah tobacco extremely mild and flavored with dried fruit, as did my 2 first officers, shown here. Bartering is expected and often quite fun. Here's my first officer buying camel whips for his wife's 5th grade class. No English is spoken, just gestures. Some good deals could be found in the gold souk as well. The vast majority of the workers in Saudi Arabia are expats, expatriates, workers from other countries: Pakistan, Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, Malaysians, Indonesians, Filipinos, and others. All of these workers will spend many years working in Saudi Arabia, but will never gain citizenship. This is one of my favorite breakfast stops in Jeddah: Pakistani bread and egg omelette. Saudi women all dressed alike, but beneath the robes they're reportedly well made up. Years ago, the Hajj was a horrendous breeding place for contagious diseases. Now the Hajjis must have all their vaccinations, but outbreaks of diseases like meningitis do occur. Most of the Hajjis return with a respiratory cough, which we call the Haji hack. Flight crews are not immune to these ills. After the Hajj, it's time to go home. All have been given a commemorative copy of the Quran, compliments of the custodian of the 2 holy shrines, which is the official title of the King of Saudi Arabia. The Hajis are given a warm welcome upon their return. They will return to their villages and cities as religious heroes and can forever be known as Haji. Some Hajj logistic figures: 2.2 million pilgrims. Estimate 1.5 million travel by long-distance air. Estimate average aircraft seating is 350, so 1,500,000 divided by 350 is 4,285 large aircraft are needed. The average long-distance flight is 8 hours. 16 hours full for 2 legs, 16 hours empty for 2 legs. Minus 4,285 times 2 legs is 8,570 aircraft legs full and 8570 legs empty. 500 knots times 8570 legs is 4,285,000 miles flown empty, divided by 25,000 miles, which is the Earth's diameter. So 170 trips around the world are flown empty. Meanwhile, our layovers in Indonesia were quite a bit more casual than in Saudi Arabia. This was our hotel one year. This is Jakarta, and the arrow points to my room. The hotel typically hosts a welcoming party upon our arrival. This was in 2000, and this one was 2001. These are in Balikpapan, the island of Borneo, at the 2001 Hajj. Tour opportunities were available. One memorable trip I took was to Central Java to see the Borobudur Temple. On the island of Java, surrounded by volcanoes, stands a mountain of 1,000 statues. Built in the 9th century, it's believed to be the largest Buddhist temple in the world. The galleries that ring the structure are covered with nearly 3,000 bas-relief panels carved into the stone. Another great tour I took was an overnight boat trip on the Mahakam River to the interior of Borneo. 8 of us crew members went on the tour. Local cuisine was provided. Logging and mining were the noticeable industries along the river, along with the river communities. There's a grocery store and some houses. We stopped to observe a Dayak tribe ceremony on our behalf. Dayak tribes were fierce headhunters not that long ago. They performed some ritual dances for us, and we received an impressive blowgun demonstration, and most of us bought blowguns and swords from the tribesmen and brought them home. I still have mine. We also had some fun. There was plenty of golf opportunities. 2 golf courses were available. We were cordially invited to join the Sunday Afternoon Duffer Society by our Australian friends. We usually played with a caddy, 2 caddies, a main caddy and a caddy Casil, or assistant caddy. The crews worked hard, and like crew dogs everywhere, we played hard as well. Be happy to answer any questions. Peace be with you. Thank you.